If you want to support Slope's Game Room, then please click the links that you see in the top comments. Welcome to Quickshot, the video game fact show for you to watch whilst you wait for the next crazy company partnership. I mean, seriously, who was expecting this? There are an incredible amount of what-ifs in the world of video gaming history, and with new players entering the market, it's just never gonna stop. What am I talking about? Well, I'm sure you've all heard of that time that Sony and Nintendo was gonna team up for a CD-based add-on for the Super Nintendo. That didn't happen, and as a result, this happened. That's probably one of the biggest what-ifs that you no doubt already heard about and pondered to yourself. What would the world of gaming be like in an alternative timeline where Nintendo stayed true to Sony and actually released the Nintendo PlayStation commercially? Oh, you've only got yourselves to blame, Nintendo. Well, here's another what if for you. You know Bandai, right? Yeah, the massively, literally third biggest worldwide at one point, and first biggest in Japan manufacturer of toys and video game developer of some of those toy properties. Right? Yeah? Good? Well, you've obviously heard of Namco too, the video game giant that has been featured many times on this channel before. Responsible for such heavy hitters as Ridge Racer, Tekken, Splatterhouse, damn, even Pac-Man. Then of course you know the name Bandai Namco, which was the result of these two companies merging together in March of 2006. Well, what if I told you that before there was the Bandai Namco partnership, there was talks of a Sega-Bandai partnership? Yep, back in the day towards the end of the 90s when Sega was still a massive player in the console world, the idea of merging both Sega's vast collection of IPs such as Sonic, Outrun, Altered Beast and Burning Rangers with Bandai's Astro Boys, Power Rangers, Kamen Rider, Sailor Moon and Godzilla toy line would have been a massive merger. In fact, this stock swap was actually valued in at $1 billion, and as the New York Times reported on January 24th, 1997, it would have made the soon-to-be-called Sega-Bandai the world's biggest toy and video game company, topping such companies as Mattel, Hasbro, and even Nintendo. A merger like this was incredibly rare for companies back then, especially Japanese companies, but with both Bandai and Sega having a very Western-styled management team, it seemed that everything was going according to plan. After all, reports like this one and many others at the time were not talking about the possibility of the merger. No, this was something that was going to happen. The idea came during the boom of the Power Rangers a few years prior, a massively popular TV show that became a big seller in the toy and video game market too, and the presidents of both companies saw the potential of working together to further push IPs like this into multimedia and entertainment sectors. So much so that it would even rival the Walt Disney Company. I know, crazy, right? And just to put that into perspective, this was when Disney was knocking out films like Lion King, Pocahontas, Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Hercules. In other words, quite a bold claim. Especially when you consider the position that Sega was in by late 1996 and especially 1997, they'd fallen into third place behind Nintendo and newcomers Sony. And when it comes to Bandai, their previously mentioned Power Rangers were definitely on the way out at this point, and even worse, Bandai's joining venture with Apple was a complete disaster. Seriously, search Apple Bandai's Pippin and you will soon see just how bad that system was. When you look at it like this, connecting these two companies would have been a good way to boost everybody involved. Like I said, all of this was being reported at the beginning of 1997. The expected effective date for all of this to go ahead was going to be the end of the same year. But in May, the whole thing fell apart, and it was because of mid-level managers at Bandai hating the idea. 80% of those managers were worried about Sega's strict company culture affecting the way that Bandai's more friendly, laid-back style would continue to do business. And yep, it's as simple as that. A press conference was held one day later on May 28th by both Sega and Bandai to explain that the whole thing had fell apart, and that was the end of that. A day later, Bandai's president resigned, and in January of the following year, so did Sega's. And although it was never reported, it was believed that a lot of the reasons behind the sudden departures were due to the disappointing failures of the merger. Sega went their own way and Bandai did too, leaving us gamers to think to ourselves what would have happened if Bandai actually got exclusive rights to produce Sega toys, and more importantly, what would Sega have been like today if they had exclusive rights to all of Bandai's IPs? Also, that Disney line? Gonna rival Disney, are you, Sega-Bandai? Well, if I was you, I'd be careful what you say. You know what old Bob's like, he'll end up buying you out. You better watch yourself.